Picture this. You spent the last 7 years becoming absolutely brilliant at one thing. Maybe you're the Excel wizard in your department, the one person everyone calls when a spreadsheet breaks. Or maybe you're the best copywriter on your team. You've written hundreds of emails that converted at 3%, sometimes 4%. You show up to work on a random Tuesday, coffee in hand. Same routine, same desk, same fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Your manager calls you into a conference room. The HR rep is already there. There's a box of tissues on the table that wasn't there yesterday. And in the next 4 minutes, everything you've worked for just stops. We're eliminating your position. Not you did something wrong. Not your performance is an issue. Just your position gone. You walk out of that building with a cardboard box, 7 years of experience, and absolutely no idea what comes next. Now here's what makes this terrifying. You weren't bad at your job. In fact, you were too good at one specific thing, and that's exactly why you got fired. If that sounds backwards, stay with me, because in the next 12 minutes, I'm going to show you the invisible career trap that's about to catch millions of workers completely off guard, and the exact steps you need to take to make sure you're not one of them.
My name is Buffett, and I spend way too much time thinking about career economics and the hidden mathematics of job security. If you're someone who's worked hard to master your craft, who's been told your whole life that specialization is the path to success, and who's now watching the job market shift in ways that don't quite make sense, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I'm not here to scare you. Well, okay, maybe a little. But more importantly, I'm here to give you something most financial content completely ignores, a brutally honest look at what's actually happening in the job market and what you can do about it before it's too late. Let's get into it. Here's the thing. We've all been sold a story. Find your niche. Become the best at one thing. Specialize, specialize, specialize. And for a long time, that advice made sense. 20 years ago, if you became the absolute best at medical billing or HVAC repair or Java programming, you were set. Companies needed specialists. They'd pay a premium for them. You could build an entire career, sometimes a 30-year career, doing essentially the same thing. But here's what most people don't realize. That world, it's gone. According to the World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report, 44% of workers' core skills will be disrupted between 2023 and 2028. Not over decades, over 5 years. Almost half of what makes you valuable right now will need to change. And here's the kicker. A study by McKinsey found that by 2030, up to 375 million workers globally may need to switch occupational categories entirely. Not just learn a new tool, not just adapt to a new software, completely change what they do.
So let me ask you something. If you spent the last 5, 10, maybe 15 years becoming exceptional at one specific skill, what happens when that skill becomes automated, outsourced, or simply irrelevant? I'll tell you what happens. You get that Tuesday meeting. Now you might be thinking, Buffett, come on, I'm really good at what I do. They can't just replace me. And look, I get it. That confidence comes from years of being the go-to person, the expert. But let me show you some math that's going to shift how you see your career. Let's say you're a mid-level data analyst earning $75,000 a year. Solid income. You're good at your job. Specifically, you're excellent at creating reports in SQL and visualizing them in Tableau. That's your thing. That's what got you promoted. And now here's the problem. A company called Coefficient just released a study showing that AI tools can now perform 80% of standard data analysis tasks in roughly 1/10 the time it takes a human analyst. We're talking about work that used to take you a full day getting done in under an hour. So let's do the math. If a company is paying you $75,000 a year, that breaks down to roughly $36 an hour, assuming full-time work. Now, if an AI subscription costs $20 to $50 a month and can do most of what you do, your hourly value proposition just got decimated. But here's where it gets really interesting. It's not just that AI is cheaper. It's that AI doesn't call in sick. AI doesn't need health insurance. AI doesn't ask for raises or file complaints with HR. From a pure cost-benefit analysis, keeping a single skill specialist on payroll when technology can replicate that skill is like paying someone $500 a month to be your personal calculator when you have an iPhone in your pocket. The math doesn't make sense, and CFOs are very good at math.
Now, let's talk about why this catches people off guard. Because it's not that people don't see the changes coming. On some level, everyone knows AI is advancing. Everyone knows the job market is shifting. So why do so many people stay in their lane, refusing to adapt?
3 psychological factors. When you're good at something, your brain develops what psychologists call cognitive fluency around that skill. It feels easy, natural, and because it feels easy, you assume it's valuable. But here's the twist. The easier a skill feels to you, the more likely it is that it can be systemized. And anything that can be systemized can eventually be automated. Think about it. The tasks you've done so many times you could do them in your sleep, those are the first tasks a machine will learn. You spent years building expertise. Maybe you went to school for it. Maybe you earned certifications. You have history with this skill. And so when someone suggests you might need to branch out, there's this emotional resistance. But I've already invested so much time into this. It's the same reason people hold on to losing stocks way too long. The investment you've already made shouldn't determine your future decisions, but emotionally it always does. This one's subtle but powerful. When you introduce yourself at a party, what do you say? I'm a graphic designer. I'm an accountant. I'm a software engineer.
You don't say, I'm someone who currently does accounting. You are the accountant. The skill has become your identity. And when your identity is threatened, you don't just resist change, you actively avoid information that suggests change is needed. Psychologists call this motivated reasoning. You find ways to convince yourself that you're different. Your specialty is safe. Spoiler, it probably isn't. Okay, so I've spent the last few minutes basically telling you everything you've worked for might be worthless. Let me give you some hope now, because there is a solution, and it's called T-shaped skill development. Picture the letter T. The vertical line represents your depth, your core specialty, the thing you're already good at. The horizontal line represents your breadth, a range of complementary skills that connect your expertise to other areas. Here's why this matters. Companies aren't looking for people who can do one thing really well anymore. They're looking for what I call adaptable specialists, people who have deep knowledge in one area but can also communicate, collaborate, and pivot. Let me give you a real example. Say you're that data analyst we talked about earlier. Your vertical line is data analysis. Solid. But now imagine adding these horizontal skills: basic project management, business storytelling and presentation, understanding of UX research, familiarity with basic Python automation. Suddenly, you're not just the person who builds reports, you're the person who can identify a business problem, analyze the data, present insights to leadership, and collaborate with the product team to implement solutions. That person doesn't get replaced by an AI tool. That person uses AI tools to become even more valuable. A 2023 LinkedIn Workplace Learning Report found that employees who developed cross-functional skills were 45% more likely to receive promotions than those who focused solely on technical depth. Same starting point, dramatically different trajectory. Now let me explain the title of this video. You will be fired after 30 days. This isn't about your current employer secretly plotting against you. It's about a pattern I've seen over and over again when economic pressure hits.
When companies face budget cuts, and we're entering an era where budget optimization is constant, they don't fire people randomly. They run calculations, and those calculations look something like this. Who here is versatile? Who can fill multiple gaps? And who is only good for one specific thing? The people in category 1 get kept. The people in category 2, they get 30 days. Actually, let me be more specific. According to SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, companies making staff reductions typically give employees between 30 to 60 days notice, sometimes less if severance packages are involved. 30 days. That's how long you have between "we need to talk" and "your access has been revoked." And here's the gut punch. By the time that meeting happens, the decision was made weeks or months earlier. You just didn't know it. The evaluation of your versatility happened in a spreadsheet during a budget meeting, while you were at your desk being excellent at one thing. All right, enough doom. Let's talk about what you actually do with this information. I'm going to give you 5 concrete steps to fireproof your career, and I want you to start implementing these within the next week, not someday, this week. Get a piece of paper. Write down every skill you use at work. Now, circle the ones that only you on your team can do. Those are your specialist skills. Now, look at those circles and ask, could a tool or AI do this in 2 years? Be honest. If the answer is even maybe, that skill needs backup. Look at the people in your company who are one level above you. What do they do that you don't? What skills do they have that you lack? For most people, the gap isn't more technical skill. It's softer skills: communication, leadership, strategic thinking, cross-functional collaboration.
Those are your horizontal expansion opportunities. I don't care how busy you are. You need to carve out 5 hours a week for skill development. That's less than 1 hour a day. And before you say, I don't have time, let me do some quick math. The average American spends 3.1 hours per day on their phone for non-work purposes, according to eMarketer. That's 21.7 hours a week. You have the time. You're just not prioritizing it correctly. New skills don't matter if nobody knows you have them. You need to create tangible proof. Start a side project. Write about what you're learning on LinkedIn. Volunteer for cross-departmental initiatives at work. Build a portfolio that shows range, not just depth. The goal is this: when decision makers look at a spreadsheet of names, there should be multiple columns with value next to yours, not just one. Your current employer is not your only option, and if you wait until you're fired to start networking, you're already behind. Every month, have at least 3 conversations with people outside your company. Former colleagues, industry contacts, people you meet at events. This isn't about finding a new job right now. It's about making sure you have options if that Tuesday meeting happens. Because here's the real financial insight. The person with options negotiates from strength. The person without options takes whatever they can get. Let me paint you a picture of what happens when someone doesn't take this seriously. I want you to meet David, a composite of about a dozen people I've spoken to over the past year. David was a senior financial analyst at a mid-sized company, made $92,000 a year. He was exceptional at financial modeling in Excel, like truly gifted. People called him the spreadsheet whisperer. In early 2023, his company started implementing AI-powered financial planning tools. David thought, whatever, I'm irreplaceable. By August, he was in that conference room with the tissues. Now here's the financial fallout. David was unemployed for 7 months. That's roughly $53,000 in lost wages. He eventually found a new job, but at $74,000 because his niche skills weren't in demand the way they used to be. That's an $18,000 annual pay cut. Over the next decade, assuming that gap doesn't close, David will lose approximately $180,000 in earnings compared to where he was. And that's not counting the retirement contributions he missed, the compound growth he lost, the emergency fund he drained during those 7 months. One irreplaceable skill, hundreds of thousands of dollars in lifetime cost. Now compare that to Sarah. Sarah was also a financial analyst. Same company, same skill level. But Sarah saw what was happening and pivoted. She spent 2022 learning data visualization, picking up presentation skills, and getting certified in a financial planning software that worked with AI tools rather than against them. When the layoffs came, Sarah wasn't cut. In fact, she was promoted 6 months later to manage the new AI integrated processes at $115,000. Same starting point, same economic disruption, wildly different outcomes. The difference wasn't luck, it was preparation. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. Nothing I've said today is particularly complicated. You don't need a special degree, you don't need to quit your job and reinvent yourself overnight. You just need to stop believing that being excellent at one thing is enough. Because the game has changed. And the people who adapt, they're not just surviving, they're thriving. They're getting the promotions, the raises, the job security, and the peace of mind that comes from knowing they have options. The people who don't adapt, they're going to wake up one day, walk into a conference room, and realize that their entire career was built on an assumption that no longer holds true. And by then, it's too late. So here's my ask. This week, not next month, not when things slow down, but this week, I want you to pick one new skill to develop. Just one. Something that complements what you already know. And I want you to commit 5 hours a week to it. If you do that consistently for 6 months, you will be dramatically more valuable than you are today. Not because you've abandoned your expertise, but because you've expanded it, reinforced it, made it anti-fragile. And when, not if, but when the next wave of disruption hits, you'll be the person with options. You'll be the person who stays. If this video gave you something to think about, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment telling me what skill you're going to develop first. I read every single one. I'm Buffett, and I'll see you in the next one.